I will discuss the domain and range of continuous relations and functions. So the domain represents the x values, while the range represents the y values. To write the domain, the x values, you want to remember what is the left value, what is the right value. So in this case, the value on the left is -3, and the value on the right is +5. And you want to ask yourself, the value on the left, is it close or open? So if you look at this point, you can see that it is closed because it is a full shaded circle. So then for you to write it, you put the x in the middle, okay? So this is the value on the left will be -3, the value on the right will be 5. So you've asked yourself, the value on the left, is it open or close? So this is close. So you are going to use less than or equals to. So this will take less than or equals to. And the value on the right, you are going to ask yourself, is it open or close? So this is also close. So we are also going to use less than or equals to. So for the range, you also want to ask, what is the bottom value, that is the minimum, and what is the top value, that is the maximum? In this case, the bottom value is +2, and the top value or the maximum point is +4. Is it open or close? For the range, we have y, and don't forget x for domain, y for range. So the maximum value in this case is 4, and the minimum value is 2. So this is one way of writing the domain and range. This notation that we have just used, we call it inequality notation. There's also a second method that I want to discuss to write the domain and range, and that is the interval notation. So for the interval notation, for close, we use brackets. Whenever a point is close, it's going to be a bracket. So for the domain is going to be bracket because it is close, -3, +5, close, and then you close it with the brackets. So for the range is also closed, so we use bracket 2, 4, which is the maximum point. And because that point is also closed, we are going to close it with another bracket. So in this example, I demonstrated how to write the domain and range in both inequality notation and interval notation. So the inequality notation, that is algebra 1 concept. In algebra 2, you are expected to know both inequality and interval notation. So let's look at another example. Example 2. So in this example, okay, you put the x in the middle. So this point on the left, -3, that is open. So you're going to just put less than. This point on the right, that is closed. So you're going to put less than or equals to. So this is 1 and this is -3. So as interval notation, so because this is open, you are going to use ordinary parentheses. So that's going to be -3, 1, and then you use brackets on the right. Because -3 is open, so you're going to use parentheses, and +1 is closed, so you're going to use brackets. So for the range, the minimum value of this graph is at -4, okay? And they are both close. The top is also at 0 and is close. So because they are both close, so as in inequality notation, all you are going to do again is y, okay, for the range. They are both close, so it's going to be at 0, -4, okay? And in interval notation, you are going to have, this is both close, so you are going to have brackets, -4, 0, bracket. So this is another example, and this one is interesting because you have one point that is close and one point that continues, that is arrow. So in that case, the domain, the left is on -5, and it keeps increasing until positive infinity. So for this point, so the domain is going to be x is greater than or equals to -5. So S keeps being bigger than -5, but that -5 point is also included because it is close there. So this is inequality notation. Okay, so to write that as interval notation. So in interval notation, so we are on the left is -5 is close, so we are going to have brackets -5, comma. On the right, because our graph did not end, so we are going to put positive infinity. Infinity is always open, so we are going to use a parenthesis. So for the range, the maximum point is at +5 because of this, okay? And then the minimum point of the range, because this continues going, is going to be -infinity. So in this case, the inequality notation for the range is going to be y less than or equals to +5, okay? Because the maximum value is 5 and it started decreasing continuously until -infinity. And for the interval notation, okay, you're going to have, again, so the minimum point in this case is -infinity, comma, +5, which is the maximum point. The +5 is closed, so we are going to have a bracket, and the -infinity is going to take a parenthesis because it is always open. For example 4, we have a graph with arrows on both sides. So that means for the domain, it goes from -infinity to infinity. It has no end. And for the range, it also goes from -infinity to +infinity. So the domain and range is going to be all real numbers. And then to write that as, we can still write it as inequality, okay? In case you are wondering, how can I write this as inequality? So we can write X is an element of all real numbers, and that's it. So as interval notation, we are going to have -infinity to +infinity, and you are going to have parentheses in both sides because infinity is always open. So this is the same thing for range too. Inequality is going to be y is an element of all real numbers. And then interval notation will also be -infinity to +infinity. Thank you.